Granate vergessen. Excuse me, but you forgot your grenade. Der Amerikaner hat Hundekuchen in der Tasche. The American has dog biscuits in his pocket. Rennt euer Leben. Hat eine Panzerfaust. Run for your lives. He has a bazooka.
Electronic Arts and DreamWorks Interactive present Medal of Honor. Prepare for your finest hour.
So as you can see, I have already cut the CRT mask on the TV. I brought the CRT more to the front as much as I could. I had to glue some foam around the edges. It looks pretty stuck. You really cannot see that this thing has been modified. You can see a little bit there, but it was the best that I could do. I could pull it a little bit up, but you are starting to see here the black part also, so yeah, it's good. Looks good, it performs good. And on the back, it's looking much better now. Chassis is installed and it fits. There's zero clearance between the wiring harness and the CRT, but that's really not a big deal because the CRT doesn't get hot, or very hot at least. I've installed a new socket for the CRT. This is the type of socket that is PCB mounted, but it works. I twisted the wires around the posts and soldered them. You got there, that orange thing is a new boost filter capacitor. Looks a little bit dangerously mounted, but I can assure you that the wires will not touch the metal. The small electrolytics are new. All the other capacitors are the originals. There are two blue capacitors and a new resistor here. And what happened here was that I sprayed contact cleaner on the tube sockets and I forgot to let them dry enough, and the dirt mixed with the contact cleaner formed some type of conductive liquid, and there was a hard short on this tube socket which blew up one of those capacitors and smoked the resistor. I had a really hard time figuring out what happened, but it's solved. Here on the sweep board we got new electrolytics. We have a couple of resistors that were replaced because they were out of tolerance. Nothing that prevented the TV from working, but while I was in there I checked all of the carbon composition ones and replaced the ones that were out of tolerance, at least the ones that were way out of tolerance, because they are all a bit high. These red resistors and these brown, cream, whatever you call this color, I mean these ones and these gray ones and these red ones, they are some type of film resistor. You can overheat them, you can bake them, you can do whatever you want with them, and they always have the same 5% or less tolerance. They are amazing. I got here still my test socket adapter, which I have to remove. The filter cans behind this metal part, they were restuffed, and this thing is ready for a final adjustment of linearity and size and all that crap, and I can put the back on and use it. Another thing that I forgot to mention, besides the bad capacitors, bad electrolytics, etc., this TV actually had a malfunction, and it was right down in there where this black wire and this white wire are connecting. There was a VDR in there, a voltage dependent resistor, and it's still there, that white disc with that gray stuff. I don't know if you can see it. It is broken, completely broken off, and these things are impossible to find unless you have a parts TV, and you cannot buy a modern replacement because each VDR is manufactured for a specific purpose, and it has a resistance curve and voltage curve which are very characteristic for the circuit that they are designed to work on. But I managed to find a solution until I find the correct part to replace it. So the VDR in question is this guy right here, and this tube, it says here stabilization tube. So this tube actually regulates the high voltage. This potentiometer right here is the width control, and it drives this tube, and this tube biases the PL36 horizontal output. And what this VDR does is, you have here your +3 supply. This is about 200 volts. We have a 100k resistor, and this VDR acts as a voltage divider / regulator, and it provides sort of a constant 100 volts to the cathode of this tube, independently of the current drawn by the tube. So the first thing that I tried was with the VDR out of circuit, like the TV was before I repaired it. The high voltage would come on, but the horizontal output would draw excessive current. It would overheat, and we would lose the high voltage within about 1 minute of operation. With the VDR disconnected, broken, on this pin I measured 200 volts. So what I did is I grabbed another 100k resistor and made a simple voltage divider. I attached the resistor from pin 8 to ground, and with the resistor installed we had approximately 100 volts here, and the TV worked. But we lost the regulating function, because if we turn the width control, this voltage would vary, and as a consequence we would get, with the uncertain conditions, we would get excessive current draw from the horizontal output. So the best solution that I could think of was this. We have a 100 volts Zener, and we have a 1k resistor just as a current limiting sort of thing, so that the Zener doesn't burn. This tube actually pulls very little current, so this Zener doesn't actually get, it doesn't get hot or anything, so not a problem. But I think the resistor is useful here as a protection to absorb some current. And the Zener is mounted from the cathode to ground, and it acts as a shunt regulator. It removes 100 volts out of this supply, independently of the current drawn by the tube. and since this supply is 100 volts, so it actually regulates the voltage quite well. This +3 supply where it is, it's right here. We have between the mains and the +3 we have a couple of resistors. We got here 180 ohms, 100 ohms, and the 15 ohm or whatever that is, so low value resistors. And we have this 100k. So for this thing to operate perfectly well, I would want to connect this as close to the mains as possible, because we have some voltage fluctuation here because of the resistors. So what this zener does is it subtracts 100 volts from our voltage here, but our voltage here fluctuates slightly because we have resistors, we have dropping resistors. And as you know, or if you don't know, I will tell you, the voltage when it is dropped across a resistor, the drop depends on the current drawn. So we don't have a perfect regulation happening here, but it works enough so that we have enough range on the width control without losing the high voltage. I could modify the circuit and connect this directly into here maybe, and add some smoothing capacitor, or but that's just too much work. This works, the TV runs, it can run for some hours without overheating. The zener doesn't get hot or anything, so I'm going to solder those two parts in there in the place of the old one until I find the correct replacement VDR. And no, we cannot use a metal oxide varistor or a MOV. Those blue things, we cannot use them because those are for, what do you call it? It's a over voltage protection. They are not linear. They are very, very high resistance, and when they reach their breakdown voltage, they are almost like a dead short. They absorb part of the voltage and they conduct the rest to act as a surge protection and the over voltage protection. So VDRs on televisions, in this type of old style VDRs, they are typically very linear devices. They have a resistance value, DC resistance when cold, and when cold, no, when they are zero voltage, they have a certain value, and that value changes according to the voltage that is present. But they are quite linear. They are not like the modern blue ones, and so we cannot fit a modern one here. If we would fit a modern metal oxide varistor here, what would happen was that we would have our 200 volts constantly present here, or if we used a 100 volt metal oxide varistor, as soon as we hit 100 volts here, it would shunt all of the voltage to ground, so it would not work. So I'm going to turn the brightness all the way up. As you can see, it's extremely bright. So we can bring it all the way to the middle. We seem to have some poor contacts on the valve sockets, especially here on the vertical. The valve is quite loose on the socket, which causes this sometimes flickering. But yeah, I have the brightness in the middle. Another flicker there. That was on the horizontal section. I really need to clean the tube sockets. and tighten the connections. I usually stick a needle in the socket and bend the pins a little bit. That usually does the trick. By the way, this is a game. It's on the PlayStation that my kid used to play. I use this as a video source very often. Let me turn the brightness up again. See there? Blinds you. Really bright CRT. So yeah, it's working fine. I hear some arcing in here. I need to clean the high voltage socket. Can you hear it? I need to put the shields on the tuner tubes. I actually had to take the tuner apart and clean the contacts because it was really dirty. We have a frog. What the hell? We actually have a frog in the workshop. Hello, little buddy. What are you doing here? Want to watch some TV? Let me put this guy outside and I'll come back to you soon. So I actually left the frog in there, otherwise the dog will eat it. Probably it will starve here, but I don't know what's better, to starve to death or being eaten by a dog. I don't know. Okay, so as you can see, TV is working perfectly fine. I have still some maintenance to do on the tube sockets, and still need to clean it a little bit better. Put the back cover on, and it's done. I bet you can smell the heat from there. 21 tubes. In the previous video I told you this was 23 tubes, but no, it will be 23 tubes if we had a UHF tuner, which is not present on this particular model. So this is a 21 tubes, and I'm counting a CRT as a tube. Still, it's a very high tube count for a black and white TV. That resistor over there looks a little bit crusty, but it's good. It works. These don't go bad. You need to set them on fire so that they open. It will last. There's no need to replace that. Got our new shiny electrolytics. I need to take my test socket out of there because I don't need it, hopefully. Got here our 3 fuses. This uses 3 fuses for different B+ supplies. We have our yoke, which is cracked. They always crack. Doesn't seem to be a problem. Our new boost cap. The old one was a black tar capacitor. They always short, so we need to replace that on all the Philips TVs of this era. Well, but what? Well, I actually have a USB cable laying in here, and right now it's touching the boost capacitor. Well, that's nice. What? I'm glad that this thing didn't short. Let's play.
Good morning, Lieutenant.
Good morning. Let me pause the video.